What's up, guys? JT Anime and Nerd here, bringing you all that nerdy goodness. Today, I'm going to be giving my own rewrite/revision of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Now, before we get started, I want to point out that I don't dislike the movie. In fact, I adore it for having a story written for the fans. However, despite being an incredible film, it's not without its flaws. Flaws that I think could have brought it to its more fuller potential. If I'm being honest, I do believe that most of the decisions in the current film were intentional, whether they were meant to be explored in a sequel or even a prequel. So without further ado, let's get into the rewrite. It begins like normal. The current security guard, named Fritz Smith, according to the name on his badge, of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, is attempting to escape from an unknown threat trying to break into his office by going through the vent. As he continues down a dark hallway, we see a shadow of what appears to be an anthropomorphic fox. As Fritz gets to a cage door, he hears the sound of a humming shanty from the hallway, leading him to panic as an unknown attacker charges at him, Fritz screaming in response. Fritz then wakes up strapped to a metal chair, attached with a sort of mechanism that holds an animatronic mask that's filled with blades and mechanical pieces that could rip one's face apart. The sounds of loud metallic footsteps are then heard coming through the doorway into the parts and service room. Fritz can only look at the person in horror as we see the looming shadow silhouette of a long-eared creature in front of him. Fritz asks the mysterious figure why it's doing this, but the silhouette of the mysterious figure reaches for something to its right, and the sound of a lever being pulled is heard. The animatronic mask then begins to lower to Fritz's face as the blades within it begin to rotate, and the sound of the mysterious figure's metallic footsteps can be heard exiting the parts and service room. Fritz frantically begs the person to not leave him down there, but his words fall on deaf ears. Fritz nearly unscrews one of his restraints, but isn't fast enough. The camera then focuses on a leaking pipe on the far corner of the parts and service room Fritz is in, while a blurry background shows blood begin to splash out of Fritz's face as it gets shredded by the animatronic mask. The next scene then shows the pizzeria, followed by a wall of kids' drawings, one in particular showing a yellow rabbit holding the hands of 5 children. We then get an 8-bit montage of what looks to be the yellow rabbit, who's revealed to be a costumed mascot who is seen luring children away from the main stage one by one, with seemingly malicious intent. We then see an alarm clock go off for 6 a.m., leading a man named Mike Schmidt to remind his little sister, Abby, to get dressed. Moments later, one of Mike's co-workers, a security guard at a local mall, is reading Mike's book called The Dream Theory. More moments later, Mike stops to get an ice cream, but then notices a little boy on his own. As the ice cream girl tries to stir up conversation with him, Mike notices a man aggressively handling and pulling the child to come with him, leading Mike to chase and attack the man. The next day, Mike is called into the office of a career counselor named Steve Raglan, who at first reprimands Mike for attacking a man in front of his kid, revealing that the man Mike attacked was the legitimate father of the boy he believed he was saving. Steve then notices Mike's full name on his file, stopping for a moment before he finished saying Mike's last name. Mike asks if there's a problem, with Steve stating that he just lost his train of thought. After Steve explains that his track record gives him limited options, Mike attempts to take his leave, but is offered a last-minute job by Steve. Steve explains that this job is an independent one, but it still pays, involving in working as a security in the building that belongs to a family friend of his. Steve then explains that the pay isn't good and the hours are worse being at night. However, Mike reluctantly states that he can't work nights, with Steve giving him a card with his number in case Mike changes his mind. Mike returns to his house to find a notice of delinquency at his door, with him then greeting the babysitter named Max and then getting into a slight argument with his sister Abby, who points out the existence of her invisible imaginary friend. That night, Mike would fall asleep listening to nature sounds with a poster of Nebraska above him, followed by him having a flashback with him as a kid, his mom, his dad, and his little brother named Garrett on a camping trip in Nebraska. After spilling some soda, Mike's mom would ask Mike to watch Garrett as she was going to get some napkins. But after being distracted by a frisbee, Mike would witness Garrett be taken away in a car by an unknown kidnapper, cementing his lifetime of guilt. Mike would then wake up the next morning, taking his little sister to school. The next day, Mike would meet with Abby's doctor, Lillian, in her office, along with Mike's Aunt Jane and her lawyer, who tries to berate and make Mike look bad in order to gain custody of Abby in an attempt to get the checks from the state involving Abby. Jane makes a quip about Abby being mentally ill, but Lillian makes it clear that she's not. Jane retaliates by implying that a child talking to imaginary friends isn't normal, and argues that Lillian is trying to make Jane look like the crazy one. Jane then gives custody papers to Mike and offers him to sign or she will take him to court. Moments later, Mike talks to Abby's doctor, Lillian, stating that despite her idiocy, Jane was right that Mike wasn't fit to care for Abby. However, the doctor denies his word, stating that he can't give up on her. Lillian then tells Mike that pictures are important to children as a way of communication, with Mike confirming that he's in mostly all of her pictures. Mike then states that a judge would never side with him, but Lillian asks him if he found a job, to which he states that he was offered one. Lillian encourages him to take it, as it is a start at looking good in front of a judge in case things go to court. Back at the house, Mike calls Steve and states that he'll take the job. On that first night as Mike gets to the building, titled Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Steve explains that this place was huge in the 80s with the kids, but it's been shut down for years. Steve explains the layout of the building and even explains the electricity and how Mike should flip the main breaker to reset it. Steve then closes his explanation by stating that all Mike has to do is keep his eyes on the camera monitors and then hangs up the phone. Later, while getting situated in his office, Mike finds a tape with his name labeled on it, also seeing a faint labeling of Fritz behind it, as if someone tried to erase it. After putting it into the VHS player, he finds that it is a security training tape that shows the pizzeria in its heyday. But during the segment where the host talks about the endoskeletons, she then introduces the creator of the animatronics. However, the moment the creator walks in front of the camera and shows himself on screen, the monitor glitches, blocking the creator's face from view. After that, the host then introduces the animatronics, but the screen glitches again when they are shown on screen. After the tape ends, and after getting spooked by a Balloon Boy toy, Mike finds his vest and flashlight in the office. Mike then looks around on the main lobby, only to be lured to the main stage by a crashing sound and spot Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica on stage, who he points out smell really bad. After returning to his office, Mike then gets set to fall asleep to his nature sounds. Mike then has his dream of Garrett getting kidnapped all over again, but this time, he finds a set of 5 kids standing behind him menacingly. Mike asks the kids if they saw the kidnapper, to which they give no response. When Mike aggressively asks the kids who took his brother, they begin to scatter, with Mike beginning to chase the one with a hook in his right hand. As soon as Mike reaches him, the kid cuts his arm with his hook hand, cutting deep, much to Mike's surprise. Mike then looks at the child, with the kid with the hook showing his eyes to be pure black, with a black substance dripping from his eyes. Mike then wakes up startled, checking his watch to see that it's 3 a.m. The sound of loud buzzing is heard, only for Mike to check the monitors and see a hooded woman standing at the front door. Mike then goes to greet the police officer named Vanessa Shelley, who helps tend to the mysterious wound on his arm, the same one he got in his dream. Vanessa then points out how suspicious he's been since he opened the door, to which he states it's been a weird night. Vanessa, however, isn't surprised, stating that's how Freddy's is, followed by her asking Mike if he's met them yet. As Vanessa and Mike walk into the main lobby, Vanessa mentions missing kids, much to Mike's surprise. Vanessa then takes Mike to the main stage and pushes the Showtime button, activating the animatronics on the main stage. As Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica sing their 80s song, Mike notices the closed curtain next to the main stage that says Pirates Cove with an out-of-order sign in front of it. Mike asks about the stage, with Vanessa revealing that Foxy had an incident in 1987, and it's been out of order since. Suddenly, Bonnie's guitar sparks up and shorts the three animatronics out, shutting them down. Just then, Steve enters the building. Much to Vanessa and Mike's surprise, Steve then claims he only stopped by to check in on the place every once in a while as a favor to the owner. As the three get to know each other for a bit over some sodas that Steve brought, Mike asks Steve about the kids that went missing, pointing out that Steve failed to mention that. Steve then explains that superstition and rumors of hauntings led many previous security guards to quit, explaining that a long time ago 5 kids went missing, never to be found, and that the police had 2 suspects in their case. Vanessa states that the first suspect was someone named Jeremy, followed by Steve mentioning that the second suspect was someone named Will, but reveals that the police eventually convicted Jeremy for the disappearances. Vanessa then points out that the incident brought too much bad PR to the pizzeria, leading to its eventual shutdown. Steve then states that now everyone thinks it's haunted, which is why the place needs to be guarded to keep out trespassers trying to prove the myths, leaving Mike to ponder for a bit. Steve then points out how Mike isn't wearing a badge, leading to Vanessa to give one to Mike. After putting it on, Steve expresses how Mike reminds him of himself when he was Mike's age, revealing that he used to be a security guard for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in its heyday. That morning, Mike returns home and expresses to Max that he plans on paying her eventually, to which she states it's okay and that she knows where she lives, she said jokingly. Moments later at a diner called Sparky's, where we do see a awesome cameo of Matt Pat, aka Game Theory himself, Aunt Jane meets up with Max and her brother Jeff, revealing that Max was hired to prove criminal activity involving Mike. After Max mentions Mike's new job, Jeff suggests that they break into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in order to get Mike fired in exchange for $1,000, to which Jane agrees to. Back at the house, Mike and Abby get into a small argument over Mike's work vest and Abby wanting to go to work with Mike, to which he refused. On the second night, Mike is sleeping in the office while Foxy is roaming the halls as seen on the cameras. Meanwhile, Mike is having the dream again, leading him to meet with the blonde boy in the middle of the forest, one of the 5 kids he saw earlier, drawing something in the ground with a stick. Mike tries to ask what the kid is doing there, and continues to plead with him on what he saw pertaining to Garrett, but the blonde boy states that he can't be talking to him, and that he'll get mad. Mike asks the boy who the boy is talking about, with the blonde boy simply saying, "The yellow bunny." All of a sudden, the blonde boy senses something and panics, claiming that he's found us, and tells Mike that if he doesn't want them to hurt him, he should wake up while he has the chance. Suddenly, the environment transforms into the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's main lobby. Just then, Mike is horrified to hear metallic heavy footsteps coming from the main entrance, with none other than an old withered Spring Bonnie to appear from the darkness of the entrance. As Mike is frozen with fear, Spring Bonnie charges and pushes Mike with almost superhuman strength. Spring Bonnie then begins to speak in a distorted voice, claiming that he killed his brother and that now he'll kill him. As Mike looks up in curiosity to Spring Bonnie's words, Spring Bonnie states that the little ones tell him that Mike has a sister, and that she'll love it here. But Mike is, however, finished, as Spring Bonnie pulls out a knife he wipes clean. Mike looks up in fear, as Spring Bonnie brings the knife down to stab him, but Mike then suddenly wakes up with the music of the animatronics playing loudly over the speakers, and the electricity going haywire. In a panic, Mike heads for the breaker as Foxy stands outside his office, followed by Mike resetting the power and Foxy disappearing from the hallway. As he passes the door, Mike felt as if he was being watched, and so left to inspect the hallway, only to find what appeared to be newspaper clippings on the wall in front of the cameras. As he reads them, he noticed that they pertain to the missing kids, wondering what could have put all this here. That very morning, Mike is locking up. He zips the newspaper clippings in his bag when Vanessa drives up to greet him good morning, encouraging him not to worry, do his job to the letter, and he should be just fine. Meanwhile, Jeff acts as a lookout and then contacts Max to let her know to bring their friends over to initiate breaking into Freddy's. Moments later, Max, Jeff, and their friends Hank and Carl show up and get into Freddy's through the old cargo garage. Max then expresses her disdain at what they're doing, stating that Mike and Abby are good people, but Jeff kind of intimidates her into going along with them, keeping her quiet and unable to stand up for herself. The group then begins to ransack and rob Freddy's. During the ransacking, Carl hears a sound coming from a nearby freezer in the kitchen. Carl opens the freezer to find Chica's cupcake in it, but then disappears after getting distracted by a noise. Carl then turns around to see Chica in front of him, holding her cupcake, much to his horror. The cupcake then jumps at Carl with its jagged teeth, leading to Hank, who's nearby, to hear Carl screams of pain. Hank then looks into the kitchen as Chica's cupcake is biting and gnawing at Carl's face. Chica then turns to see Hank in plain sight, leading Hank to run away in fear. Meanwhile, Jeff makes it into the security office where he sees Hank running away into the supply closet through the camera monitors in fear. Max is seen in the truck waiting on everyone, but begins to get frustrated. Back in Freddy's, Jeff calls out to Hank, leading Hank to attempt to open the supply closet door, but to no avail. However, Hank doesn't notice the glowing fluorescent eyes behind him, with the lights turning on to reveal Bonnie right behind Hank. Hank then turns and screams in fear as Bonnie inches closer to him, with Jeff hearing his screams and bones and flesh cracking and tearing from within the hallway. After Jeff calls out to Hank one more time, the door to the supply closet then eerily opens in front of Jeff, only for Bonnie to slowly appear from within the supply closet. Jeff then drops his crowbar and runs away in fear. Jeff makes it to the security room and attempts to call for help, but the tone of the phone is replaced by eerie laughing of children and a screeching ringing sound, leading Jeff to hang up. Jeff then notices that Chica sent her cupcake into the vent and leading to the security office. Jeff then holds the vent and door in place as the cupcake attempts to chomp through it to get to its prey. After the cupcake leaves, the door to the security office opens, leading Jeff to attempt to go through the nearest exit door, but to no avail. Jeff turns to see Foxy standing at the other side of the hallway, only for a flash of light to show him running towards his intended prey. Meanwhile, Max enters the building after waiting too long, with the lone child telling her to follow him. Concerned for the kid, Max follows him all the way to the parts and service room, leading her to find the Freddy Fazbear animatronic. The boy then speaks from inside Freddy, leading Max to investigate, but ultimately be pulled into the mouth of Freddy and sliced in half by his bite, becoming another victim to the slaughter. Also, as a fun little note, was that the bite of 87? Meanwhile, at Mike's house, Abby is watching cartoons while Mike is in his bedroom sifting through the newspaper clippings, looking at one that talks about 5 children now reported missing and 2 suspects convicted, one unaware kid is vanished at local pizzeria, bodies not found, and one that says local pizzeria said to be closed by year's end. Wanting to take a break, Mike attempts to give his security badge to Abby, but Abby coldly refused, leading Mike to put it in a drawer along with the custody papers. Mike then expresses to Abby that he's trying his best, leading guilt to cause Abby to try and open the drawer in order to claim the security badge that at first wasn't budging. Abby then finds the custody papers and expresses how she doesn't like Aunt Jane, with Mike expressing how he likes that the two can agree on something, for once. Abby asks Mike if he intends on giving up on her, but then a knock is heard at the door before Mike can answer. Mike and Abby are then greeted by Vanessa, who informs Mike that someone broke into Freddy's and even found Mike's sleeping pills. After Vanessa scolds Mike on criminal negligence, the two go for a walk. Near a canal, Mike tells the story of how his brother Garrett was kidnapped, leading to the family becoming broken. Mike expresses how guilty he feels and that somewhere in his dreams, the answer to who kidnapped Garrett is buried, explaining the dream theory to Vanessa, where memories are locked away within the brain, not lost. Mike also reveals that his mother passed away and his father left him and Abby because he couldn't handle the pain anymore. but that they used to be the perfect parents before Garrett was taken. Vanessa then states that Mike has Abby and encourages him to focus on her. Vanessa then expresses her family issues very vaguely, stating that they're not whole anymore, but shows Mike a photo of the last time she was truly at her happiest, presenting a photo of a little Vanessa next to a yellow rabbit-looking mascot at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza during its heyday. To Mike's surprise, he noticed the familiar rabbit from his dream, but to his shock, he also noticed the familiar toy little Vanessa's holding, the very plane that Garrett had when he was taken. Mike then asks Vanessa where she got that plane, to which she responds by stating that Spring Bonnie gave it to her, a mascot from the early days, explaining that he was a character from Fredbear's Family Diner, the predecessor of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Vanessa then throws his sleeping pills into the waters of the canal, with her telling him to stay alert while on duty. At the beginning of the third night, Mike tries to call Max, but no answer, leading him to have to bring Abby with him. Within the vandalized building, Mike has Abby in a little made-up tent within his office for her to sleep in, while Mike checks the supply closet, only to notice some blood on the door, but shrugs it off. Mike then cleans up the main lobby for a bit before returning to the security office, putting on his nature sounds, and falling asleep. While Mike is asleep, the voice of a child lures Abby to the main stage in the lobby. Meanwhile, Mike is in the dream again, meeting up with the blonde boy once again, who he assumes is one of the missing kids. The blonde boy continues to draw something in the ground with a stick. Mike asks the boy who took Garrett, but the boy asks for something in return, to which Mike responds he'll give them anything they want. After the boy disappears when the sounds of Abby's scream is heard, Mike looks down to see a drawing of the familiar rabbit, the one he encountered in his previous dream. Mike then wakes up to notice that Abby is gone and is screaming in the lobby. Mike then comes out to encounter the moving animatronics, who turn out to have just been tickling Abby. With everyone calm, Abby introduces Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, much to Mike's shock in not believing something like this was possible. Abby then gives Bonnie a drawing of a heart, stating that they like pictures, before giving Freddy a hug and taking their leave. That morning at home, Mike tucks Abby to bed and is stunned to find her drawings of the very kids he's been talking to, realizing that they're the same beings as the animatronics. At breakfast, Mike questions Abby about the animatronics, with Abby confirming that they're actual ghosts. Mike then has a heart-to-heart with Abby about their brother Garrett, to which they both reveal that their parents never talked about him much. Mike then asks Abby to explain her drawing of Garrett getting kidnapped, with her stating that her friends never spoke of who took him away, only ever talking about a yellow rabbit. Abby then states that she can ask about who took Garrett the next time they meet, something Mike greatly appreciates. On the fourth night, Vanessa is standing in front of the wall of drawings with an expression of pain and trauma, staring at the particular picture of the yellow rabbit seen with a knife in his hands and seemingly hurting the kids, which is what to replace the drawing of the yellow rabbit holding in the kids' hands. The sound of kids chanting that they love the yellow rabbit before their chanting is replaced by horrific screams is heard. Mike and Abby then arrive, with Abby stating that her friends have talked about her and state that she's a nice person, referring to Vanessa. Mike and Abby greet Vanessa, with Mike sarcastically thanking her for the heads up about the moving robots, with her arguing that he wouldn't have believed her, something Mike does agree with her on. Abby then shows plans for a fort, something that Mike, Vanessa, Abby, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy all set up. A montage of fun shows how the animatronics are truly just kids at heart, making it hard to believe they would want to hurt anyone. Vanessa then goes to the back room in order to search for a tarp, with Mike accompanying her. In the back room, Mike discovers an old Ella animatronic, which he almost touches before Vanessa stops him. Vanessa then explains that the mechanism in that very animatronic are spring locks, a mechanism for the older models designed to keep parts in place so someone could safely wear the suit. Mike states that the concept is a pretty unsafe idea with Vanessa in agreement, showing how dangerous the spring locks are by using a broom as a test. The broom Vanessa sticks into the spring lock splits in half as the spring locks all over begin to close in its arms, legs, torso, and even its head. Vanessa then states that they tend to be pretty unstable, especially when it comes to water. Mike then questions Vanessa about anything else she hasn't told him, since it seems that she knows this place as much as Steve does, asking what if Abby found the spring lock suit. Vanessa argues that he's the one that brought Abby here and asked why, since he knew about the animatronics afterwards. Mike lies at first, stating that he doesn't have a babysitter, but Vanessa calls him out on his lie, stating that he could have gotten anyone to look after her. Mike then admits that he plans on having Abby ask the ghost kids about his brother, as they seem to know who took Garrett. Vanessa tells Mike that he needs to drop the subject, but he doesn't relent, as he pleads with Vanessa to talk to him, but she states that he's just not listening to her. Vanessa then notices Abby about to strum Bonnie's guitar, to wit, she tries to stop her, but it's too late. Abby gets shocked and falls off the stage. Moments later, Abby wakes up coughing, feeling only minor repercussions despite the big shock. Outside of Freddy's, Vanessa tells Mike to head home and look after his little sister. Suddenly, Steve arrives in his car, a bit surprised as to Mike's early leaving. Mike and Vanessa then explains that Abby had an accident, to which Mike follows up with that he didn't have a babysitter, so he had to bring her. Steve tells Mike that she's lucky the accident wasn't too serious, and then politely recommends Mike to find a babysitter before tomorrow's shift. As he states, despite this place seeming like a playground, it's not a safe place for kids anymore. Mike agrees and gets in the car. Abby then asks why everyone looks at Mike with such anger or disappointed look on their faces, to which Mike doesn't respond. Back at the house, Mike makes a call to an unknown person. The next morning, Mike wakes Abby up, but she's shocked to see her Aunt Jane in the house, with Mike making it clear that he's not giving her up. However, he tells Abby that he's not bringing her to work this time after the accident, and so Jane's gonna babysit her. In Abby's room, Abby begins scratching off Mike's face in her drawings in anger. In the living room, Jane makes mean quips about Abby's temper, reminding her of Mike. As Mike leaves, Jane states that they have a bigger discussion to get back to, but Mike interrupts her and states that there is no way in hell he is going to give a selfish bully like Jane custody, with Mike walking out the door or telling Jane that he'll see her in court. Moments later, Mike is at a pharmacy getting sleeping pills, and even more moments later, he enters Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. On that fifth night, Mike takes the pills and begins to fall asleep, entering his dream once again. However, Mike notices Garrett and his parents all sitting together at a table, far different than the usual dream. The 5 kids led by the blonde boy then appear, telling Mike that what he really wants is to go back and change things, and be with his brother. The blonde boy tells Mike that it can let him live in this happy illusion with his brother forever in exchange for Abby. At first, Mike ponders for a moment and is almost about to say yes, with the illusions of his mom and Garrett telling him to let Abby go and saying that he was never the right person to take care of her. Mike places his hand on false dream Garrett's face, remembering all the good memories he had with him, but also remembering the good memories he's had with Abby. Mike then explains how it's been hard to live without Garrett and that he misses him so much, but now he has to look after Abby. Mike then says goodbye to Garrett in a heartfelt moment, followed by Mike apologizing to the ghost kids and refusing their offer, but turns around to find that everyone is gone, even the illusions of his family. In the real world, Foxy begins closing in on Mike, while in the dream world, the blonde boy's voice tells Mike that he should have taken their offer. But if he won't give Abby up, they'll take her themselves. As the ghost kids surround Mike, he tells them to stay away from Abby, only to get slapped ashes by each kid as they run by, creating gash wounds all over his body. As Mike kneels down bleeding, the kids chant Abby's name, and the voice of the blonde boy states that the yellow rabbit knows about Abby, and they're too afraid of him. So what the yellow rabbit wants, the yellow rabbit gets. Mike then wakes up to find himself in the parts and service room, strapped to the metallic chair that Fritz was put put it in. The animatronic mask with blades and its circuits getting closer and closer to Mike's face. However, Mike is able to get out of the chair thanks to the loose screw that Fritz messed with when he was strapped to the chair. Mike, however, then witnesses the horrific collection of Max, Jeff, Carl, and Hank, all mortally mutilated or stuffed into animatronic suits by Freddy and friends. Mike then attempts to escape, only before hearing the scat-adding of Foxy at the other end of the hallway. As Foxy closes in on Mike, he gets through the exit, seemingly escaping Foxy's wrath as he screams. Back at Mike's house, Jane tries to get Abby to come out of her room, but to no avail. As Jane goes to watch television, Golden Freddy is seen behind her or near the kitchen. After hearing a sound, Jane goes to investigate near the kitchen, but nothing's there. As Jane enters the kitchen, she encounters Golden Freddy, who grabs her by the throat, staring into his one working eye in great fright. After hearing the commotion, Abby comes out to be greeted by the blonde boy, who is the one possessing Golden Freddy. Moments later, Abby is ready to go, but notices Jane on the floor, to which the blonde boy states that she's just sleeping. Abby then asks how they get to the pizzeria, to which they take a cab, driven in by a familiar YouTuber-looking guy. Meanwhile, Mike wakes up at a police supply outpost, where Vanessa has been helping Mike recover. Mike confronts Vanessa on knowing more than she let on, even confronting her about Max and her brother and friends. Vanessa states that it's complicated, but Mike argues that robots killing innocent people are already complicated. Despite Vanessa arguing that they weren't innocent, Mike states that they were still people with families and that Abby is innocent. After telling Vanessa off about her vagueness, Mike explains what happened in his dream, with him refusing their offer in exchange for Abby's life. So now they're taking it into their own hands to take Abby to some yellow rabbit he also saw in the previous dream, something that seemed to catch Vanessa's attention. Mike then asks Vanessa what they want with Abby, to which Vanessa tells him that they want to make Abby like them, an animatronic. Meanwhile, at Freddy's, Abby arrives and enters the building only to find that Golden Freddy has disappeared. Back at the outpost, Vanessa then explains that police searched for the missing kids in Freddy's, but never found them. Back at Freddy's, Abby is searching for her animatronic friends, but then looks at the wall of drawings. Vanessa then explains that the man who took them was a very bad man, a very cruel, sadistic, and clever man who knew that people would come looking for the kids. Vanessa then reveals that the bodies of the kids were stuffed inside the animatronics, revealing the reason that they were given life. Mike asks Vanessa how she knows this, with Vanessa then revealing that she was there when the kids were killed, stating that she was playing hide-and-seek with her friends and decided to hide in the parts and service room, but then witnessed the man dressed as Spring Bonnie bring in and kill the 5 kids one by one, mentally scarring her for life. Vanessa then states that the kids don't truly want to hurt anyone, but that they're so scared of the yellow rabbit that they're too afraid to fight back and defy his orders. Ever since then, their spirits have sought shelter in the animatronics, using their new bodies as weapons against adults they just don't trust. Vanessa states that ever since she witnessed their death, she's been obsessed with trying to find the killer and put him away, stating that the killer is the very reason she became a cop and why she patrols this area, and that she believes he's hiding somewhere in the pizzeria. Mike then tells Vanessa this means the plane she received from Spring Bonnie actually belonged to Garrett, as he recognized it in the photo, shocking Vanessa. Back at Freddy's, Abby witnesses the appearance of her animatronic friends, and then back at the outpost, Vanessa presents cattle prods and tasers to Mike, stating that electricity is enough to stun them, but not shut them down for good. Mike asks Vanessa to come with him, but she's too traumatized to want to go back and confront the rabbit now that things have gotten so hectic, to which she was trying to avoid. As Mike drives back to Freddy's, Vanessa's voice states that she believes the killer is finding everything out through the cameras, and advises him to destroy them as soon as he gets there, so Spring Bonnie won't have an eye on him anymore. She also tells him to avoid the front entrance and enter an outlet vent in the east side of the building. Mike then arrives and enters the vent, and hiding as quickly as he can from Freddy and Bonnie, who are singing on stage. Meanwhile, Chica is luring Abby to the parts and service room, where the spring-locked Ella animatronic is currently being kept. Back in the lobby, Mike throws a bucket of water at Freddy and Bonnie's feet, followed by tasering the ground, electrocuting them both causing them to fall over. Back in the parts and service room, Chica attempts to stuff Abby in the Ella animatronic, but fails with the arrival of Mike, who then tases Chica until she falls down. After Mike and Abby hug in reunion, Mike promises Abby that he'll do better as her guardian, stating that she's the most important person in his life. Just then, Chica begins to wake up, same with Freddy and Bonnie back in the lobby, with Chica's cupcake also opening its eyes. As the two roam the hallway, Mike pulls out a cattle prod, followed by Chica's cupcake biting his leg. After fighting off the cupcake, Mike shocks it with his cattle prod and continues on with Abby. As Mike and Abby turn a corner, they are confronted by Foxy running toward them, leading Mike and Abby to take shelter in the security office, closing the door behind them. At first, Foxy seems to attempt to break down the door, but then it suddenly stops. Abby checks the cameras with Mike's direction, only for there to be no sign of the animatronics. As Mike tries to hear anything on the other side of the door, heavy knocking is heard, mistaken for another animatronic. However, the voice of Steve Raglan is then heard. Steve tells Mike to open the door in a frantic tone, leading to Mike opening it to greet and hug Mike, relieved that help has someone arrived. Steve then tells Mike and Abby that he knows a hidden exit in the parts and service room that no one else knows about, prompting Mike and Abby to follow him. Mike, Abby, and Steve make it to the parts and service room, not noticing that they pass a familiar run-down spring Bonnie suit sitting in the corner of the room like a lifeless husk, as well as not noticing a leaking pipe at the high corner of the room above it. Steve then points out the hidden exit, with Mike and Abby relieved to see some hope of escape. Before Mike could ask how Steve knew about this exit, he turns to find that Steve has stabbed him in his side, but not hitting anything vital. Mike falls backwards and Abby runs up in concern for Mike, asking why Steve would do this. Steve then repeats a word that Mike's heard before in his dreams: symmetry, revealing to Mike that Steve is the killer. However, Steve then reveals that his name is William Afton, explaining how the bad spot he put himself in led to him having to change his identity in order to keep up his sadistic antics. Mike then asked William why he killed Garrett, with William replying that he was just letting off some steam, making it clear that there truly was no reason for Garrett to die. William then expresses how he's gonna enjoy completing the set by killing Mike and adding Abby to his collection. As William is about to kill Mike and Abby, Vanessa arrives with gun in hand, catching William's somewhat unsurprised attention. Vanessa then warns William to drop the knife, but calls him Dad, revealing that William Afton is actually her father. William orders Vanessa to help him clean up the mess that she created, and even tries to say that she wouldn't use a gun on him, but Vanessa shoots, hitting William in the shoulder. William then retaliates by knocking the gun out of Vanessa's hand and then grabbing her by the throat, stating that she had one job: keeping Mike in the dark and killing him if he got too close. Vanessa then asks William why he would give Mike the job in the first place if it just seemed he was going to be killed anyway. William grabs Vanessa by the throat, stating all the things he's done for her, such as giving her life, being there for her when her mother took her own life, and even put her through the academy so she could become useful to him, claiming that he's given her all of his love and that this is the thanks he gets. Suddenly, the lights begin to flicker, with Freddy and friends appearing in the parts and service room, much to William's surprise. William then throws Vanessa to the side, quickly getting into the nearby spring Bonnie suit, which actually frightens the animatronics. Mike looks up to see William Afton berate and insult the animatronics, making them feel small and too scared to stand up for themselves. Mike then spots Max's brother's nearby crowbar, using it to hit William in the face, much to the surprise of Freddy and friends. As William berates Mike for trying to be a hero, Mike states that he wasn't there to protect Abby from him, just like there was no one to protect these kids from you. So it's about time someone did, leading Freddy and friends to look at each other in curiosity of Mike's kindness despite everything they've done. William then laughs and swats Mike away, knocking him down, with William stating that he's about to show Mike just how useless he is. As William begins to go for Abby, Vanessa grabs the knife in William's right hand. William orders her to let go, but Vanessa states that she won't let him hurt Abby too, leading William to stab his own daughter, almost mortally wounding her. Vanessa then whispers "Dad" one last time before falling to the ground unconscious. William then looks in Abby's direction, much to her horror, stating that she's next. As Freddy and friends notice how scared Abby is, they then decide to act, finally standing up to William after all these years. Much to his surprise, William notices Freddy and friends getting in between him and Abby, as well as surrounding him. William orders Foxy, who's standing in William's way, to move, but to no avail. As the animatronics get closer to him, William continues to berate the animatronics, stating he made them and that he can unmake them. Freddy and friends then begins attacking William in the Spring Bonnie suit, each one hitting and slashing him. Mike and Abby then get up and quickly walk in Vanessa's direction, helping her up and leading Vanessa to regaining some consciousness. As William is being near beaten by the animatronics, he grabs the nearby crowbar and begins smashing and breaking Freddy and friends, much to Abby's distraught. Freddy then hits William in the face, causing William to take a few steps back near the corner of the room. Vanessa struggles to express how the spring locks have been activated. William then begins to laugh hysterically, stating that he modified the suit's spring locks to be as tough as actual steel during the day shifts, and that not even the useless robots can trigger them. William then states that it's about time he disposed of these unruly kids and started a new collection. William then states that for ungrateful brats like them, he will always come back. As William laughs hysterically and Freddy and friends struggle to even get up due to their damage, water from the nearby leaking pipe begins dropping down onto the Spring Bonnie suit, leading to the beginning of the most gruesome scene. We then hear the spring locks in the Spring Bonnie suit clamp and break William's torso, followed by the arms, legs, throat, and face, each spring lock clamping in place and causing great pain to William. William's pain is shown by his horrific and gagged screams, as well as blood beginning to ooze from the crevices of the Spring Bonnie suit. William begins to shout out for help for someone to get the suit off him, but to no avail. As Freddy and friends stand up in their damaged state, Mike, struggling with his stab wound, helps Abby help Vanessa up, and both toward the hidden exit. Abby asks what's happening, with Mike responding that the spring locks are unstable, and the suit are unstable, especially toward water. William then falls to the ground, twitching and gagging in pain, leading to Freddy and friends to grab William and drag him away toward the entrance of the parts and service room as the restaurant begins to fall apart. Mike, Abby, and Vanessa then go out the hidden exit as the animatronics drag William out the door, followed by the doors to the parts and service room closing. The next day, Abby is seen playing with other kids. Mike and Lillian enter the classroom, with Lillian commending Mike for Abby's progress, encouraging him to keep up the good work. Moments later, Mike is driving Abby home, but Mike says they are going to make a quick stop before they get home. At the local hospital, Mike meets up with the comatose Vanessa, who he thanks despite her deception. In the lobby of the hospital, Mike and Abby take their leave, with Abby asking if Mike told Vanessa if she said hi, to which he confirms he did. Abby then asks Mike if he thinks Aunt Jane will get better, to which he states, "We can only hope not, as she was." We then see Aunt Jane in a local mental hospital, spouting about how she's not crazy and how she was attacked by a robotic yellow bear, accusing her good-for-nothing nephew for staging it. Jane then shouts for someone to listen to her, with no one responding to her pleas. Back at Mike's house, Abby worries for Freddy and Fred, and stating that no one cares about for them anymore, and asks if they can visit them. Mike responds by stating you never know what could happen, giving her pretty much a maybe, followed by the two continuing to eat like a real family. Back at the now destroyed Freddy's, the blonde ghost boy is watching William Afton in the back room, twitching and groaning in pain, similarly like Chica's groan in the original game. As William reaches out to the blonde boy for help, the blonde boy ghost responds by slowly shutting the door, forever cementing his long torment alone in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A post-credit scene then shows the cab driver asleep and off-duty, when a sudden knock on the window happens, leading the cab driver to turn the customer away. However, the mystery customer opens the door and enters the cab, leading the cab driver to get frustrated, but he turns to see the balloon boy toy. The appearance of this toy then scares him in a comedic fashion. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and put down in that comment section below on what you liked and didn't like about this revision. I'm a writer, so I appreciate the feedback, whether positive or negative. Also, don't forget to check out my new merch store linked in the description and pinned comment below. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime, and I'll check you guys